Welcome back to the Sacred Fertility Talk podcast. I'm Dr. Pamela, and today I'm really excited about the episode. So, I want to invite all the listeners to dive deeper with us because we're just not going to talk about the physical side of preparing the conception or receiving the fertility. Today, we're going to explore what the womb and the room of sperm truly represent. So think about this. They are not just a places for reproduction. They are actually your body energetic real estate, the original energetic real estate. So the womb is the very first home for a soul to enter, which is, I think, very special. And then there is this room for sperm, which serves as the sacred storehouse of life force. So it's very fascinating. And then these spaces hold more than just physical traits. They carry memories, emotions, and even inherited imprints. Like we always said, it's all interconnected. And also, it affects how safe we feel, our relationship with abundance, and even how we see our own self-worth. And then, as always, I have my brilliant colleague, Dr. Erin. Welcome back, Dr. Erin.
Hello.
Yes, I cannot wait to dive deeper this topic with you today.
Me too. I think we say that every time, but I think anytime you start something like the project like this, it seems like we're really getting to know more about what we really want to talk about as we're talking about it. And then having one conversation leads into the next conversation. And we're fortunate to have this wealth of information, this really long medical and philosophical information to draw from that isn't present very much in the fertility world. You just don't hear a lot about, you hear acupuncture, you just hear go do acupuncture, and you hear take the herbs, but you don't really hear much about the philosophical side. And I really am enjoying bringing out some of these other concepts for people that are trying to conceive, for people that aren't. I think that it kind of matters as a person, and just from a person with a body and a soul, we're giving hopefully a new context to people that's just opening their eyes to some new topics. So I'm also really excited to talk about it today because I don't know, like you said, I feel like the more we talk about it in my own body, I'm feeling things and thinking about things, and it's refreshed me in a little bit.
We talk about this, it's just like self-discovery again, and we look beyond that. What did my mom do? How did I inherit something? Then do I have the option to change this? So I think we all have the opportunity to change our destiny. We were given the faith given from the ancestors, but we have the opportunity to change the destiny.
Like you say.
Yes. So anyway, so let's dive in. So we are basing today's discussion based on the Taoist philosophy. So we already talked about the Dantian, the sacred gate, and so in Taoist philosophy, so there is this idea about the lower Dantian. So this is the location below the belly button. So there's the womb. And also in Taoism, this is where we store our energy or essence that we call Jing, Jing. And then the energy moves throughout the womb. And for men, right, the room for the sperm. So this is where the energetic flow for male basically happening. But before we dive into the topic of conception, it's important that to think about what's happening before that. So I was discussing with you before we doing the podcast. So it's the preconception. So this is what we were gonna be talking today. So Dr. Erin, so have you seen any cases that fact stress experienced by patient that got affected from their maternal side, from the mom or the grandmother side, that manifests in their mental framework when they're trying to receive pregnancy or receiving pregnancy.
And I think I even got to the point where with a lot of, especially women, most of my clients and patients were women, I would ask them about their mother or their relationship. And not necessarily because I wanted to know the details about that, but I just wanted to get a feel for, was it a good relationship? Was it healthy? Was there a lot of support there? And I noticed how often women would say there's tension, or even their mother-in-law. Oftentimes it'd be the other side of the family, and it would be creating some stress and some turmoil as they go through the process. A lot of women would comment that they felt like they were letting their parents down. It's taking us a long time, and my parents are getting older, and it makes me feel really guilty because my parents really want to be grandparents. And you could just feel this emotional churning between those generations. And then some would say how meaningful it was to, that was one of their biggest goals for having a baby, was to have something to pass on to their parents, to help their parents become grandparents, or to do it on a certain timeline. So it's very present. Like that whole idea of lineage and passing things on, I think it's very present with most people, especially those that have living parents or have, that kind of family structure where that's accessible. But even in those that don't, it's also telling when you have severed ties with your family. It says something about there being potential trauma or stress or emotional blocks that have been present for a long time, possibly even in your preconception days when you were a child growing up.
Yes, so that leads me to the discussion of the womb is the baby's very first universe. So it's just not a physical space.
Right.
So when we talk about that, right, like you said, the daughter has not having a good relationship either with the mother or the mother-in-law, it can cause some distress in this first baby universe. Do you think so?
I do. And I think I can feel your hesitation. It's hard to talk about it. It's hard to
Yes.
explain it. It's so intimate and tender. And when we say passing something on at the cellular level, that's what we're talking about. You're talking about something that is so deep inside you that it can be uncomfortable to even address it. And that's what baby is being exposed to, is the idea here. Whatever that feeling is in the body and in the womb, that emotional frequency is present when the soul comes in, when the baby enters, and they're already feeling that state. And so, what can we do to address that
Mhm.
before that soul has been invited in? How do we heal some of that generational issue or personal issue to make the frequency, the emotional container of the womb, feel more nourished, more safe, more ready to receive?
This is actually validating the epigenetics studies.
Mhm.
All trauma, all stress, any type of vibration, fear, joy, feeling the lack of something, peace, abundance. This is all epigenetics. It's basically transferable through the very cellular level.
Mhm.
So,
It's taking what we're given from our parents
yes.
and either reaffirming it by staying in that pattern, or breaking that pattern, redistributing your epigenetic profile to
Mhm.
change things for yourself and for your future progeny by how you behave, by how you live your life, by your lifestyle choices. That's what epigenetics is, right? You might get the
Yes.
gene, but one person will develop the disease and one person won't. And so, how do we be the person that changes that cellular story for ourselves and for all the inhabitants that will be in that womb going forward?
So we talk about the wombs. Now we have to know what types of womb wounds that normally show up in adulthood. So, because we talk about forming thoughts, right? We are thinking about it before even conception. But if you have this emotional vibration, which we all just discussed, the epigenetic, right? So, if they continue doing that, how this can create a wounds inside the womb, and then it carries into your adulthood. Yes, a big question. How did
Is.
I get here? Why I have this presentation,
Mhm.
especially when you feel something is just not enough. People love you as much as they can, but you still feel like you are lack of love. So I
Mhm.
think that's inheritance, scarcity.
I can agree with that. I think so. I don't know. It's just a really fascinating topic. I think we could talk about it for hours.
Yes,
I'd also see it in generations. Everybody's Gen X and Gen Z. Everybody has a label now. But the way that those generations were conceived and then raised has so much to do. It's the nature versus nurture question. So, knowing that the baby boomers were born into groups of people that they had survived, right? They
yes,
had lived through something horribly traumatic and they had survived. And so I'm sure that there's a sense of survival that they had made it, but also trauma because of everything that they had seen and witnessed and been forced into. So I just think you can look at it in all these different perspectives, like children of Vietnam vets. I don't know if there's studies about that, but I
yes,
wonder. I saw it on TV the other day how they were talking about vets that come home with PTSD, how it starts to manifest in their children just by the exposure to it. Children that are children now that have parents that were in the war in Iraq and various things started manifesting mood disorders at an early age just because of the way that they witnessed their parents and their feelings about their parents. And so I think we're starting to see so much evidence of how real this is, that whatever is happening in our environment, in our personal body environment, is going to impact and affect development and all those things.
yes. I should agree with that. More kids, well, at least this is my experience. Not just the kids. I think I'm not the baby boomers. I'm not the Gen Z.
Not.
I think I'm in between that.
I think we're
But
Gen X.
are
Think.
we? So it's kind of more, we have the endurance to go forward and the ability to understand the situation. Like we making a strategic planning, and we can evaluate the situation logically and practically. But going back to the discussion of what can affect the wombs, right? How we make a scar to the womb. So there is this example being silenced. If the kids not able to vocalize something, it's not their fault, because probably the mom not used to vocalize her own desire when she was pregnant with the baby,
Mhm.
or probably even before she even conceived the baby, she was probably in the situation that she was not able to vocalize the real desire. So I can see this kids born with mutism. So at least that's my experience with that.
There's a lot of kids, and a lot of kids are being born with conditions that are presenting earlier. And we have more things happening to young children at an earlier age. And so it's something to be mindful of about what we're talking about, that as we keep moving through these life stages, there seems to be more children that are suffering at earlier ages. And we need to ask why, and we need to ask what we can do about it.
So does this situation, in your opinion, only affect women? How about men?
No, it can
Yeah,
definitely affect men. And I think it's a different kind. I think
yeah,
that our female womb traumas probably aren't the same types of things that we see in men in the sperm room.
Yes.
But of
Uh,
course they feel things. And I think for men, a lot of it, what it's been suppression. And we're suppressed emotionally for a long time. Women have been too, but we have to acknowledge that men were too. Men were taught boys don't cry and your job is to provide and to protect and all these things. And you're not really supposed to have any feelings about that. And the boys that are coming up today have learned a lot more about being okay, having emotions and feeling things. So I am sure that a lot of men that are in the conception space right now are carrying some kind of physical emotional wound that might be affecting their sperm health.
low motility count doesn't really mean the physical low motility count. Could be it's a deep block in receiving and holding the energy. They could, in terms of traditional Chinese medicine, it's the liver qi stagnation. If everything's stagnant, they're not able to release. That's basically presenting in low motility count for the sperm, right?
And we know from epigenetics and from genetic studies that successive generations have a harder time with the same problem.
Mhm.
So if we're talking about 5 generations, by the 5th generation, that male is
Mm.
so much more likely to express a problem from that lineage because it's just been there and it's been perpetuated for so long. Those things tend to get worse. So you see whole families that are having a harder time conceiving. I've had patients where the mother had a harder time, and then this patient's had a hard time, and then her sister's going to have a hard time, and it goes back generation by generation. And so, how much of that could be exactly what we're talking about, this emotional, energetic blockage that we pass from one generation to the next? And then with each generation, it gets more profound and it's harder, and more people are affected. So, I think we have lots of evidence to suggest that this is real. This is not super woo.
Yeah.
These mind body spaces are real, and we need to start working on them.
So going forward, so we're gonna talk about something tangible that our listeners can take home for today's discussion. Do you have any suggestion, Dr. Erin?
So, we talked about this fun thing
Yeah.
called warmth and witness. I think you just want to remind people these things that we're trying to help people do are meant to be really simple and not too far out, not too funky. This is just the idea of safety. It's recreating the connection of self and safety for men and women, for male and female. So it doesn't really matter which organ we're talking about. The energetic container where it lives is the same. So even though the testes are on the outside, what we're talking about is what's inside our body, because that's the energy space of that. So for this, it's just the idea that you take something warm, a water bottle, a heating pad, something that's nice and warm, and place it over that below the navel, over the lower abdomen with your 2 hands, and just feel that space and feel what it feels like as it warms. And then you're just going to speak to it and say, I am here, I am safe, I am open. You can just say these different refrains that help you connect to yourself. I honor you. I love you. This is a safe space. And it's just taking a few minutes, and the right warm stimulates energetic flow. So it's almost like I always tell my patients, imagine melting butter.
Yes.
You're just softening that space physically, and then you're attaching your mind and your emotional intent to it and reconnecting that. So men should do it and women should do it. 5 minutes. I am here. I am safe. I am open. Trust, honor, whatever feels good to you, just acknowledge it. Because we always talk about the first thing you start with any of these things is just acknowledging and accepting. Stop judging, stop criticizing yourself, stop being angry at your body. Just acknowledge it and accept it and forgive it and feel it. And then we can just move forward and create something new.
That's so powerful. When you really in the space, right? You can feel the tingly sensation when you really into that. When you say you forgive yourself, you not just forgive yourself, you forgive the ancestral line. Probably you forgive your mom, your grandma, or whoever it is in the line. So you are able to move forward because this is your time to create your own legacies. It's not for them. You carrying the legacies in a different way as part of continuation of the lineage.
Anytime that energy, if there's a grudge there, if there's anger and resentment and all those things, that's a closed energy system, and closed energy doesn't produce. It's a block.
Yeah.
So the whole intention here is to open that energy container. And we've said before, you can't change other people. We're not asking you to go out and pursue the people that have harmed you or wronged you. We're just asking you to go within yourself and create an energetic flow by talking with them to yourself. People with the exercises of journaling or writing a letter, it's just that, but you're connecting to your body. You want to use touch and sensation to connect to your physical self, because that's going to help you open your vessel.
Yep. So today's topic is very powerful. I even feel that there is deep side inside of me touching the moment that it reminds you, how did you get here? Literally. What did my mom was doing when she was thinking of welcoming me into this world? So it's like a tender discussion. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is. I know you and I, when we're seeing patients, we touch their abdomens.
Yes.
And you can always tell when someone is very uncomfortable with that, because it's such an intimate part of their body. Nobody touches your abdomen below the navel, usually, except your
Yeah.
partner. Or oftentimes in that medical setting, it's done and it's a cold and abrupt and it doesn't feel good. So, as practitioners, working with people and trying to reintroduce that idea of the gentle touch and meaningful touch and helping them feel safe, because you can feel it in your body when it starts to change. So it's a beautiful practice to bring that piece of you back into yourself, because it's easy to neglect it.
Well, anyway, great discussion today, Dr. Erin. Very good, very powerful.
Thank you.
So, to our listeners out there that listening to us, if you feel this conversation today resonate with you, give us a thumbs, subscribe, and share this podcast to those that really need helps in reframing their thoughts before receiving pregnancy. Until now, we shall see you next week. Take care for now. Thank you, Dr. Erin.
Great to be here.